Welcome to Myra Fairy Tales.
Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom surrounded by silver rivers and blooming meadows, there lived a gentle young girl named Cinderella. Her name was given not because it was her real one, but because of the cinders that often clung to her hands and cheeks after long hours of cleaning the fireplace. She had once lived a happy life in a grand home filled with music and laughter, until tragedy struck. Her beloved mother passed away, leaving her father heartbroken and lonely. Years passed, and her father remarried a woman of noble birth, a widow with 2 daughters of her own. At first, Cinderella had hoped this new family would bring light back into their home. But soon she discovered that behind the stepmother's polished smile hid a heart of cold cruelty. Her stepsisters were vain and selfish, constantly admiring themselves in mirrors, mocking Cinderella's simple beauty, and ordering her about like a servant. After her father's death, the cruelty only deepened. Cinderella was forced to move from her lovely bedroom to a small attic space beneath the roof. She rose before dawn each day, scrubbing floors, polishing silver, washing clothes, and cooking every meal. Her hands became rough, yet her heart remained kind and pure. Whenever her stepmother scolded her or her stepsisters made fun of her, she simply smiled softly and whispered to herself, "Have courage and be kind." But even in hardship, Cinderella found beauty. She befriended the little birds that sang by her window and the mice that scurried about the house. She made tiny clothes for them from scraps of fabric and shared crumbs of bread. Her kindness turned the lonely attic into a place of hope. The birds often perched on her shoulder, chirping songs that reminded her of her mother's lullabies. One morning, excitement spread through the kingdom. A royal decree was announced by the palace guards, an invitation to all families of noble birth to attend a magnificent royal ball. The king wished to find a bride for his son, the handsome prince, and he hoped love might blossom that very night. Cinderella's heart fluttered with joy. "Oh, how wonderful it would be to see the royal palace," she whispered, "even if only for one evening." Her stepsisters, however, were beside themselves with excitement. They demanded new gowns, ribbons, and jewelry. Cinderella worked tirelessly to help them prepare, sewing, ironing, and stitching until her fingers bled. Yet in her heart, she still dreamed of going too. When she timidly asked her stepmother if she might attend, the woman sneered and said, "You, at the ball? You have no dress fit for such an occasion. Stay home and finish your chores." Cinderella bowed her head, hiding her tears. But when the night of the ball arrived, and her stepmother and stepsisters swept out in their glittering gowns, leaving her behind in the dim kitchen, she finally let her sorrow flow. She sat by the hearth, her heart breaking, whispering, "I wish I could go. Just once, to see what it feels like to be free." And then something extraordinary happened. A soft light filled the room, and from that light emerged a gentle woman cloaked in silver and gold. "Don't cry, my dear," the woman said kindly. "I am your fairy godmother, and you shall go to the ball," Cinderella gasped. "But I have nothing to wear, and no way to get there." Her fairy godmother smiled. With a wave of her wand, a pumpkin from the garden transformed into a gleaming golden carriage. 6 little mice turned into handsome white horses, and the old dog became a fine coachman. Then, with another swirl of magic, her torn dress turned into a gown of shimmering blue silk that glowed like moonlight on water. Glass slippers sparkled on her feet as though made of pure crystal. "Now, my child," said the fairy godmother, "go and enjoy yourself. But remember, When the clock strikes midnight, the spell will be broken, and all will return to as it was. Cinderella promised to remember and stepped into the carriage, her heart racing. As she entered the grand ballroom, a hush fell over the crowd. Every eye turned to her, for she shone with a beauty that seemed not of this world. The prince himself was captivated at first glance. He bowed and asked her to dance, and as they moved together across the marble floor, the world seemed to fade away. They talked, laughed, and danced as if they had known each other all their lives. Hours passed like moments, and Cinderella felt as if she were living in a dream. But as the clock began to chime midnight, she remembered her promise. "I must go," she cried, pulling away. The prince tried to follow, calling out, "Wait! I don't even know your name." She ran down the palace steps, her gown glimmering behind her. In her haste, one of her glass slippers slipped from her foot and tumbled onto the stairs. But there was no time to retrieve it. The last chime of midnight rang out, and in a flash, her gown turned back into rags, the carriage became a pumpkin, and the horses turned back into mice. She ran into the night, barefoot and breathless, clutching only one remaining glass slipper as proof that it had all been real. The next morning, the entire kingdom buzzed with news of the mysterious girl who had stolen the prince's heart and vanished at midnight. Determined to find her, the prince sent royal messengers door to door, carrying the single glass slipper. "Whosoever's foot fits this shoe," he declared, "shall be my bride." When the search reached Cinderella's home, her stepmother quickly locked her in the attic, determined that her daughters should try first. The elder stepsister squeezed and twisted her foot painfully, but it would not fit. The younger tried next, but the glass slipper was too small for her as well. The messenger was about to leave when a soft voice called from above, "May I try it, sir?" The stepmother scowled. "That's only our servant girl," she snapped. But the messenger, bound by duty, insisted. Cinderella descended the stairs, her clothes plain and her hair tied simply, but her eyes shone with quiet grace. She sat down, and as the messenger placed the slipper on her foot, it slid on effortlessly, perfect in every way. Gasps filled the room. And when Cinderella pulled from her pocket the matching slipper, the truth could no longer be denied. Her stepmother and stepsisters fell silent in shame as the prince himself arrived, having followed the search. When he saw her, recognition lit his face. "It's you," he said softly, smiling. "I've found you at last." Cinderella smiled, her eyes filled with tears of joy. "And I found you," she whispered. Soon after, the royal wedding took place, and the entire kingdom rejoiced. Cinderella forgave her stepmother and stepsisters, showing them the same kindness she had always carried in her heart. As she stepped into her new life, she remembered her mother's words. "Where there is kindness, there is goodness. And where there is goodness, there is magic." And so, Cinderella lived happily ever after, not because she had found a prince, but because she had never lost her grace, her courage, or her gentle heart.